Hello everyone, my name is Michael Horwitz, Coder-Z Marketing Manager at Intellitech. I'm super glad to welcome you to our STEM webinar, A Superintendent's Perspective on the Journey to Future-Ready Schools. Our speaker today is Mr. Kirk Kennecke. Mr. Kirk Kennecke is the current superintendent of the Graham Local Schools in St. Paris, Ohio, and the executive director of OSRC. He has been actively involved in education for 23 years. He was awarded the Clos Caputo Educator of Humanity Award for his leadership in urban education. Kirk has presented at the local, state, and national levels and has been published in several educational journals. For those of you who are not familiar with Intellitech, Intellitech has been a pioneer of robotics in education for over 30 years. Our latest innovation, Coder-Z, is an online learning environment that allows all students to program virtual robots using 3D engaging simulations while meeting key STEM curriculum goals. Coder-Z makes robotics for education accessible, affordable, and enjoyable for all. You can learn more about the Coder-Z online learning environment by visiting gocoderz.com or by following Coder-Z on Facebook and Twitter. We also have a free trial that you can sign up for on our website. A few technicalities before we begin. We are recording this session and will of course share it with you along with the other registrants. During the session, we encourage you to submit questions. To submit a question, simply type it in the question box in the lower corner of the GoToWebinar control panel. At the end of the session, Odeid will answer your questions. You are also welcome to ask questions and tweet about our workshop in Twitter using the hashtag STEMinar during and after the webinar. Kirk, the audience is all yours.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today with Coder-Z to talk about Graham Local Schools and our journey to Future Ready. This is a really exciting opportunity for me and for the Graham Local Schools, and we truly appreciate it. My name is Kirk Kennecke, and some of you probably want to know who I am. So first and foremost, I'm a Buckeye. I come from Ohio, and I'm a graduate of The Ohio State University, and I have lived and worked in Ohio as an educator for the past 23 years. I am also the executive director of the Ohio Small and Rural Collaborative. This is a group of small and rural school districts that is committed to progressive professional development opportunities for our members, and we have been working very hard over the last 2 years to try to provide innovative STEM curriculums to schools and to school leaders and teachers, and I'm very proud to lead that organization. But I'm most proud to be the superintendent of the Graham Local Schools. Here in St. Paris, Ohio, we have approximately 2,000 students and about 200 staff members who are dedicated to making life better for all of the residents of St. Paris, Graham, and our local townships in Champaign County, Ohio. I'm also a proud father of 5. There are 3 of my children. I have triplets who are in 9th grade in a high school here in Ohio, and my wife Susie, who works for the Chamber of Commerce locally in Champaign County. We're very happy to live and work in an area where there are so many hardworking families and people who care so much about education. So, Graham Local Schools, who are we? Some of you may not know this, but Graham's district is the home to A.B. Graham, who is the founder of 4-H, an international organization dedicated to teaching children about their local community, about agriculture, and about how to give service to their communities. We're very proud that A.B. Graham grew up in what is now the Graham Local School Districts over 100 years ago and helped to teach children about agricultural education and how things should be done in schools in the early 1900s in Champaign County, Ohio. As many of you may know, 4-H has grown to become internationally recognized for the work that they do, and adults and children from all over the world now learn the 4-H's as they grow up. Here at Graham, we try to use what's around us, and we're very proud of our precision agriculture programs. We're also very proud of the fact that we're located within 20 minutes of the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, where the Wright brothers first learned to fly their planes. And we believe in giving service to our community, and of course, precision aviation science is something that we're very interested in as a part of the Graham Local Schools as well. So we like to think that we have a mix between old and new, progressive and traditional, and we value all of that here at the Graham Local Schools. As I became a superintendent, one of the things that stuck with me were some of the videos that I used to watch as a principal and share with my staff. And when I got to Graham, I realized immediately that some of our cultural aspects needed to change. One of the things that I worked on early on was showing my staff what I meant by change. These are two of the video clips that I would share with you that I love. One is called Caines Arcade, and I think it speaks to educators about the why we are here and why we should be doing what we're doing to create student-centered cultures in schools. The second is a backward bicycle YouTube video, and it has to do a little bit about how we think as adults and what it is that we should be doing with our thinking processes and how we should try to impart thinking to children. These are very, very powerful video clips that we will not show today, but I hope you take the time to digest when you can, and I hope that they are inspiring to you as they were to me. I think that as we've tried to build out our leadership model here at Graham and come up with the logic behind becoming future ready, we always have to know the why, and we always have to think about thought processes or design thinking when we talk about change. At Graham, we have 4 foundations of leadership and change that we're concerned with. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about those. We talk about personal leadership, we talk about cultural leadership, operational leadership, and adult leadership. All of those aspects of our culture are important for us to change. First, we have to learn to grow as individuals personally. Then we have to learn to plan culturally through leadership in order to be able to teach the things that we want to teach operationally to all of the people in our organization. Once we do that, we'll all be able to do those things, and our adult leadership will shine through. It's very important to me to note that we are proponents of Carol Dweck and growth mindset. Growth mindset research is something that I think should be the foundation of change in all schools, whether you're talking about embedding technology in a classroom or changing the way that we use certain methods or even how we do professional development together. We've used this growth mindset research along with Tim Kite's R-Factor training as vehicles for our staff in the last 2 years. Much like Rocky Balboa in the famous Rocky movies, this future champion had to learn how to become a champion. In the first movie, getting to the title bout was a process that ultimately didn't result in a win for Rocky, as many of you know. However, in Rocky 2, Rocky learned to adapt, to change, and embrace the new processes and supports around him to ultimately find victory. We have used this simple but fun metaphor and the hashtag R2 on Twitter to capture our journey to future ready at Graham. We believe in growth mindset training, which talks about it's okay to fail, it's okay to practice, and it's okay to grow over time. We don't have to be perfect every day. Here you can see the official seesaw of the growth mindset. I love this slide because it talks about how our brains are actually built versus how we can learn things. And learning things involves working hard. You can always get better if you have a growth mindset. We really like that approach. And of course, we really love Rocky. So at Graham, in order to change, we had to talk about personal leadership, and we had to start trying to build a culture here where we all are able to give and receive feedback and where we reflect with each other to improve. In order for us to put the right kind of classrooms together and the right kinds of building designs in place, first we have to make sure that our personal leaders have that growth mindset and that we actually know how to meet and dialogue together. So we've introduced things like dynamics meeting methods and new evaluation tools, not only for our teachers, but for our administrators as well. We actually put an entirely new human resources plan in place last year that speaks to growth mindset and people who are reflective. We want to make sure that our staff is willing to have input and voice into the things that we're going to decide to do before we do them. I don't believe in a top-down approach. My job as a superintendent is to point us in directions and then to make sure that all of our people in our organization have some voice and choice as to the best path to go. And I think that we're trying to build that culture here one day at a time. We're not there yet, but we are making great strides, and we're very proud of that. All of the adults in our organization need to understand what we're about. At Graham, we went through a strategic planning process where we worked on identifying the goals that matter the most to us. We wanted to make sure that all of the adults in the organization understand that Graham is going to work on what we call the 3 E's: enlistment, enrollment, and employment. For far too long in Ohio schools, people have been thinking that college was the one way for everybody to be successful. We don't believe that at Graham. We believe in enlistment, enrollment, and employment, and we want to make sure that students have personalized learning experiences that allow them to find the pathway that they'd like to travel. Our job as adults is to take their passion and to make it happen. Kind of like that one-hit wonder from Irene Cara back in the early 80s. The message still applies. Take your passion and make it happen. Our job is to do that here for children. Building a learning community where adults and students take ownership is the important piece that has to develop in this culture. We can't become future ready if we don't have a culture where everybody's focused on the 3 E's and where adults and students are actually actively planning for students to take ownership of their learning and that pathway that we're talking about. Whatever pathway they choose, we have to be able to help them get there. The professional development side of this is extremely important. We have to be good decision makers as adults, and we also have to put some research in it to move past our opinions about what's best for kids and to actually do something that's research based and provides us with best practices. We started with our leadership team learning Lean Six Sigma principles and making some of the same kinds of decisions that industries and Fortune 100 companies use over time. I've been very happy to have all of my leadership team members earn their yellow belt certification in Lean Six Sigma, and very soon they will all have their green belt certification. We can't expect students to get these certificates and credentials to graduate with high-tech problem-solving skills if our adults can't model those things. We've also worked on future-ready research. We're very happy and proud to be a part of the Battelle for Kids SOAR cohorts. Battelle puts together wonderful professional development cohorts every year for small and rural school districts where we get to work on future-ready research, and we get to dialogue with other small and rural districts to come up with good ideas that we can then design and think through before we implement them. This year, our high school will be going through a reform cohort, which we're very excited about. And our elementary building team will be working with a literacy cohort. Battelle for Kids has been a great partner to Graham as we've tried to build the cultural leadership where teachers and administrators work collaboratively on their growth mindset and their decision-making training, their design thinking training in order to become future ready. One of the most important things about these teams that I don't want to miss is that you have to hire like-minded leaders. That doesn't mean that you should hire somebody who's just like you. That would be a huge mistake. Indeed, our human resources plan is about hiring people who add to the mix, who bring new and fresh ideas, and who share in the same vision for education. That we should have student ownership at the center of everything we do, and that our job is not to be comfortable here as adults, but to benefit children so that they're ready for their future. Ultimately, future ready is about the students feeling ready, not the adults feeling ready. So again, this does not mean hire people just like you. It means hire the best thinkers who will challenge the status quo, but who also share in the vision of change for children. The last piece of our four-pronged approach to leadership in our district is operational leadership. We have to have the systems in place that support strategic planning through goals and data-driven sources that we then monitor. I mentioned before that we used the Lean Six Sigma DMAIC properties, and we are wholeheartedly embracing those as a leadership team. We're also getting students to learn those things. we're having them study problem-solving curriculum. And we're working with our adults to take data and set benchmarks. We have 4 main data benchmarks in our district we are now working to identify and monitor regularly. From graduation rate to kindergarten readiness assessment data, we have found there are 4 major data points that we always want to study as touch points, and we do that in intentional, routine, and consistent ways throughout each school year with teams of teachers and administrators analyzing those goals together to make sure that we're on track to realize our goals and to make sure that our strategic plan is relevant. In terms of operations and moving forward to change our district, we have to be ready to use Google. It's very much a common sense thing in schools today that Google is not going away. Many of our adults do not know how to use Google as a platform confidently. So we are spending a lot of time passively introducing this notion to our teachers and our administrators. I've been very proud over the last 4 months that several of the staff members in this district have earned their Google Level 1 certifications, and a number of them are moving on to a Google Level 2 certification. Indeed, when I hired my last high school principal, I would not have hired somebody who did not have a Google certification on their resume. It's that important to bringing change to how we do things. Our infrastructure can't change unless the people who are leading it have those skills behind them. At Graham, we have spent a lot of time branding ourselves. A brand does a number of things for you. It helps create a message that you want to send to your community about who you are, what you care about, and what you're working on. Here at Graham, we're working on Career Gears. Career Gears at Graham is our system of K-12 college and career readiness. It's a part of our branding that shows people we have changed to become more relevant to meet the needs of our community in the 3 E's: enlistment, enrollment, and employment. These programs that are a part of Career Gears allow us to measure change through the programs themselves. The number of students that go through each cohort or each program are very easy to measure, and they are either successful or they are not. Our job is to help make as many of them successful in the pathways they choose as possible. So whether students are enlisting for College Credit Plus at Clark State or Urbana, nearby colleges that we work very closely with, or they want to go into precision agriculture and go right to work after high school through one of our Falcon Farms projects, or maybe if they want to enlist in the Cadet Corps here at Graham and then become a member of the Army, our job with Career Gears is to make sure that we help those students attain their goals. This is what makes up the pedagogy at Graham. Those 4 areas I talked about. In order for us to change, we have to have deep learning in all 4 areas. Those are the things that will make us better leaders. And in order for our leadership model to work, we have to grow in our areas of deficiency and reinforce our strengths over time. None of this will happen quickly or overnight. It will take time. Our outcomes are going to be determined by the intentional, routine, and consistent leadership behaviors that we all exhibit. From the superintendent to the bus driver to the cook, we all have a stake in changing Graham and becoming future ready for the benefit of our students. We have to move beyond personal opinions to collective mastery in our culture. When our pedagogy becomes strong, we'll become future ready. Our methodology of delivery is pretty simple. We introduce ideas. We introduce them passively. Sometimes we introduce them aggressively, but we always do it intentionally. And then we routinely and consistently guide and expect the practices to take place until our staff can reach mastery. Once again, this will take time, as every educator knows. Mastery is an interesting term to me. What it means to me is that we do really deep learning with a lot of reflection, and we can't reflect by ourselves. We have to get feedback. Feedback is an extremely important thing, and it doesn't just happen informally. It also has to happen formally. That's why when we do guided practice in our district with professional development, we have to have time for teachers to have voice and choice and to get input into what we're doing, and for leaders and teachers to be able to give each other feedback about what's going on. That's what will truly lead to reflection to make our practices better for kids. You can't just throw 20 Chromebooks in a classroom and give a teacher some brand new desks and say, okay, go do station rotation. You actually have to teach them to practice, and then they need feedback, and then they need time to reflect, to grow in their confidence so that they can become stronger in their practice. That's the goal of mastery. So at Graham, what are we doing? We literally have a countdown clock to become future ready. Our staff knows that less than 2.5 years from now, the expectation is we'll be able to call ourselves future ready. There are 4 professional development elements that we have to keep working on. First is that shared ownership of growth. You can't have shared ownership if you don't let your teachers tell you what they want and need to learn. We've spent a lot of time trying to put professional development menus together where teachers get voice and choice. Recently, we held Crowdstruction 2017 at Graham with over 650 educators. The day was wonderful because educators got to choose from over 36 sessions, and they got to pick 5 that they wanted to attend that mattered the most to them. The feedback has been positive, and it's undeniable that teachers want ownership in where they're going to learn and how they're going to learn, and that will lead to growth. Second, we have to model the skill sets that we want, and we have to coach others to understand them. I was very proud of my 3 head principals. Last evening, they led what was called the GLS Tweet Chat. This was the inaugural tweet chat for our entire school district, run by our 3 head principals, Chad Miller, Ryan Rissmiller, and Chad Lensman. They modeled the skill sets with the use of social media tools that they would like to see all of their staff members utilizing. Did all of our staff members take part? No. Was it a great start? For sure. It was inspiring. What we saw in an hour with all of our staff, and over 40 of our staff members participated, was that modeling has led to more and more social media use in and out of the classroom to celebrate teaching methods and to celebrate our students and our Graham community. I was so motivated, I can't wait for the next one. Third, we have to provide diverse opportunities to learn. Recently, we were able to bring in Learning Blade. Learning Blade is a new middle school STEM curriculum. That STEM curriculum works for grades 6 through 8, and we were able to get it through a grant-funded program working with some partners through the Ohio Small and Rural Collaborative. A trainer from Tennessee came up and worked with our teachers after a faculty meeting, and within 20 minutes had taught them all how to use this very user-friendly platform that they could then share with their students. The students and teachers have raved about Learning Blade ever since. This was a diverse opportunity that they might not otherwise get, and I was so inspired to see almost every one of our middle school teachers stuck around after work, after a faculty meeting, in order to learn. And now they're transferring that learning to students. It's a personalized, adaptive platform that's gamified, much like the things you can do with Coder Z tools and products, and we were very thrilled to be able to offer that diverse opportunity that may not have come to Graham just a few years ago. Finally, we're building capacity with digital learning, experimenting with new programs, experimenting with software, experimenting with robotics, experimenting through competitions. We're trying to get our staff and our students to build capacity through play and through the passive introduction of digital tools. Last year we introduced Nearpod in a passive way. We didn't require any of our adults to have to use Nearpod. We just gave them an account. What has developed over the last year as teachers have become more and more comfortable with Nearpod is they've begun training each other to use it, and they've started to realize the true power of this software platform. Over time, their digital learning capacity is growing, they're becoming more confident, and we're becoming more future ready. There are 7 gears to becoming future ready that we may talk about. We don't have time to go through each one of the 7 gears today in the depth that I'd like to. However, I'd be glad to share with any of you information about what we're doing in all of these areas if you ever have any questions. We have obviously looked very closely at our curriculum. This year, we've launched 2 new math platforms, Dreambox at the elementary level and Discovery Education at the middle school level, that tie directly into our Graham STEAM programming. We're very interested in promoting STEAM curriculum K through 12, and these made the most sense. Our staff spent over 4.5 months evaluating the tools, looking at them and comparing and contrasting before they ultimately made a long-term commitment to these new platforms. These new platforms also will require technology skills to have them implemented correctly. And if done correctly, they will increase our math achievement and our science achievement. We're sure of it. The use of space and time and our infrastructure are things I'll talk about in a few moments. Student data rights, something that we all have to pay attention to, along with security when we're using technology and social media. I won't spend much time on that today. However, it is something we're working on. Community partnerships, professional development, and of course your budget and the area resources around you. These are all things that we have to pay attention to if we truly want to say that we're future ready. You can't just do 1 or 2 elements. You have to hit all of them. So I mentioned Dreambox and Discovery. What are the other things that we're doing? With our curriculum, we're looking at what's around us that's free. Think TV and PBS provide rich content and resources that they have curated for years. There is a huge Think TV PBS station that covers the Dayton-Cincinnati area in Ohio, and we have partnered with this group to make sure that our teachers become aware of the free resources that they already offer. The Leader in Me is a book study that we're doing in the district right now at the elementary level. The Leader in Me is a program for PBIS, or character education, that can be introduced that we feel meshes very well with the types of 21st century or success skills that industry partners would like to see out of our graduates, that we can introduce at the elementary level to teach students to take ownership for their learning and to become leaders. Doesn't cost a whole lot of money to do a book study, but the impact can be invaluable. We took intentional strides to change our middle school and high school curriculums by introducing Nearpod and Project Lead the Way courses. Project Lead the Way, as you may know, is a recognized pre-engineering curriculum. Some of the middle school courses that we can now offer, which we did not offer a year ago, are inspiring and motivating our students and drawing new families to Graham. Our students have changed their master schedule so that they can have these electives. We are requiring every student in middle school to take 2 of the 5 foundational courses in Project Lead the Way, and then allowing them to choose from among the other courses. You might look at this screen and say, boy, that's a lot for 1 year. And that may give you a little bit of a signal about where we were with our curriculum at Graham last year. I believe we're in a race to make some change, but every one of these pieces, teachers had input and voice and choice, and so did administrators. And we believe that these are the tools that we need to become future ready. Use of space and time has become very important at Graham. I'm very proud of how some of our buildings are using space and time. We started off with some simple things that were already here and working well at Graham. For example, on this slide you can see at the lower left-hand side our student-run coffee shop, The Daily Grind, at Graham High School. These students are a part of a business elective course and a program through our Career Center, Ohio High Point, and they literally run this coffee shop out of our school. They run it as a business. The teacher guides them. The students take ownership. The students do all the marketing, advertising, and budgeting, and the students set the goals for the company. We're very proud of how they use this space and time every morning in our building. We've also introduced after-school activities like First Lego League clubs and builder clubs. You can see the young men on the right here working on a builder challenge. These types of things and how we use after school time have helped to keep certain students linked to our schools and interested in our schools that might otherwise just travel home on the bus at the end of the day and not be as involved. New activities have become very important. Maker challenges, coding days, competitions to help introduce innovation to students, parents, and staff. If you build it, they will come. That's what we believe. We're very excited this year as our middle school and elementary students will be launching their first LEGO League clubs and competing all over Ohio and hopefully in the nation. We introduced coding days and genius hours in the last year where our students got to experiment with coding from 2nd grade all the way through 12th grade. We've also hooked up with partners like the Ohio STEM Learning Network and Maker Minded, and we're very excited for our students to be able to compete against peers from other schools and other districts in fun activities that embed science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math into what they're doing. And of course, I can't forget Coder Z. Coder Z links up very well and meshes and aligns with LEGO education and the first LEGO League challenges that we're working on. Students can benefit from these products and services. Most of these things don't cost much money. In fact, our LEGO League clubs were started with donors choose pages and minor fundraising, and the companies actually helped us with grants to launch all of our activities. How we're using space and time also matters outside. Graham has a wonderful campus. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we need to use what's around us. Our students need to be outside. We try to get them outside in our new learning labs and land labs. We have greenhouse projects going on campus. We have students who are working on the Falcon Farms project. And we have students who are leaving our campus for internships, something we're very excited about as we try to promote the 3 E's. You can't create career gears as a system. You can't truly change a school if you don't change the flexible scheduling and you don't change the venues where students are going to learn. That's something that we all care about at Graham and we all want to continue working on. In terms of our space design inside, we've taken incremental steps to create some new looks for our staff. And we've started in the media centers with some new furnishings where we can draw staff to bring their classrooms to come down and experiment. If they get a chance to experiment and feel out the new furniture and the new design spaces, then they'll build confidence with the use of those things. Media centers and libraries are very tough animals in schools nowadays. Getting them to be used appropriately for collaboration, design, and creativity kind of goes against the mesh and the grain of the old library mentality where you had to come in and be quiet and sit down and read a book and not disturb anybody else. That's not what our media centers are about anymore at Graham. Our media centers are to be places where students can still love literature, can still choose wonderful books to learn to read and hold a book in their hand, but at the same time, they are also experimental centers for creativity, for makerspace challenges, for design challenges, and for students to collaborate in groups, and also for adults to use for collaboration during professional development time. On the left here, you can see a picture of what some of our teachers are doing to be creative on a shoestring budget. As you can imagine, in a small rural district where we can't outfit every classroom with all of our new furnishings and designs, our teachers are being very progressive with flexible seating arrangements and their own furnishing designs. We're not telling them they can't do this. In fact, we're championing these changes. This is creativity. This is what teachers should be doing. This is one of our 3rd grade classrooms that you can see on the left that we're very excited about. This teacher had no help. They designed this themselves, and it's working for their students, and we applaud that at Graham. In terms of our intentional design space, you can see here some examples, again, at our middle school level of seating arrangements we've introduced for small group collaboration in our media center, as well as some desks and groupings in a classroom where students are working through some design challenges. We want to make sure that seating is flexible, mobile, and that it can be changed so that different numbers and groups can work together. These are simple things, but very important things when we talk about intentional routine design of your space and time in order to become future ready in a school like ours. The days of traditional desks and rows have to go. As we change, our space has to adapt. We have staff using creative means to foster flexible seating. We're intentionally designing spaces at each building for collaboration. Most important, we want people to interact in the areas where they are and learn to problem solve. When you reform space for collaboration, culturally, it changes things. It gets students and adults to start thinking about collaboration and the fact that maybe they ought to be working in groups and in more open, transparent ways. Indeed, in our media center at the elementary school, we've created a model classroom that has a wall of windows so that when teachers can show off methods and demonstrate presentations, they can do it in front of their peers in a very open and transparent way. Some of our staff members aren't ready for this yet. Others are ready to dive in. Our job is to meet them where they are and then to help them grow and get better and more confident over time. At the high school level, intentional branding and messaging reinforces who we are, and flexible seating and colors reinforce the climate that we want. Nobody wants their high school to look like their elementary school. Nobody ought to want their high school to look like their middle school. In fact, if your high school doesn't look more like a college or a business today, you're probably missing out on the 3 E's, and you're probably missing out on intentional climate design. Thinking about enlistment, enrollment, and employment, and providing these young adults with the same kinds of environments they're going to see in business or in college are very important to us at Graham High School. So as we reform a building that has been around for decades and we try to spruce it up with our decor, we are trying to be very intentional about the fact that we introduce adult, contemporary, modern looks and furnishing for our students. We also want to make sure that the flexible seating arrangements are comfortable for young adults who are going to have to interact and collaborate to problem solve as they move forward in a chosen pathway. Professional development at Graham has become very exciting. We listen to what our teachers want and we try to meet them where they are. Professional development with STEM tools is introduced with supports and time to fail. Where we can, we partner to supplant old methods with free opportunities and grant-funded work or open resources. The introduction of open resources or free resources, in turn, lead to more research, more collaboration, and more discussion before we actually make decisions about what we're going to purchase or use as a set curriculum. These things widen our learning as a staff, and they help us to grow. Here are just 2 examples. I mentioned the STEM curriculum targeting middle school students called Learning Blade. It truly is a game changer. It's easy to use. Our students go through missions that are gamified, and it allows them to adapt their learning as they progress. This can be used in a classroom with a teacher or group, or it can be used as a standalone for a student in an intervention period. It's quick and easy to learn, and that's why we like it. TechCore is another Ohio-based company we've worked with that helps to train teachers and students to earn credentials and certifications. We are very fortunate to be able to work with TechCore this year to have a high school teacher go through some training in CompTIA, who will then help his coding class and a group of up to 25 students with a grant-funded project to become help desk managers and literally help the adults in the district to learn how to use technology better. So our teenage students will help become the trainers of our adults over time with a teacher who's become trained all through a grant program because of one of our local partners. Something that's free, easy to use, provides a lot of support, but not a lot of time, and will give us a large impact, both at the middle school level and the high school level. You can't talk about change without talking about community partnerships. Community partnerships at Graham are extremely important. When I was hired as a superintendent, I was charged by our board to make sure that I was reaching out and changing the perception of Graham. I think we have done so. My staff has worked very hard to build partnerships with a purpose with universities like Urbana and Clark State, and with industries in the area like KTH, Rosewood Tools, and some of the others who are nearby. We're taking part in manufacturing days. We're sending our students to STEM camps. Our adults are taking part in college programming with Ohio State University. We're making sure that our goals are aligned to our partners' goals. We're making sure that the activities we do together are sustained. Whenever we put on an event at Graham, we invite our partners in, and whenever they put on an event, we make sure we're there. We want to be relevant to our partners. Indeed, I spent the entire year last year as a superintendent on a listening tour, asking community partners and industry partners what they wanted out of our schools. These are the results, what we're talking about today, the things that we're working on, from the model classroom at the elementary building to Graham STEAM at our middle school to Career Gears programming at the high school. These things are the results of those conversations. We are trying to become relevant to them. So to take a look at our model again, in summary, student achievement outcomes are going to increase and improve, and we're going to become future ready for students if growth becomes the practice that leads to mastery. When we get others to lead the teaching in our district, when it's not the superintendent just talking about it, when it's not a principal just modeling it, but when our growth practices lead to intentional, routine, and consistent behaviors, when we reach mastery, then we'll know we're going to be future ready. As those four foundations become embedded over time and growth becomes practice, our mastery capacity will increase. And with that mastery capacity also comes a great outcome, increased accountability for everybody in our culture to ensure that our students become future ready. Again, our goal here is to prepare students for success, not each other. If we feel successful in our work, that's wonderful. Would I like everybody in the Graham Local Schools to be happy every day as a superintendent? Of course, that would make my life great. But that's not reality. What needs to be reality, though, is why we're here. And why we're here is to benefit students for their futures. Many of the jobs that they're going to take on in their lifetime, and research shows that many of them will have 6 to 7 jobs after they get out of high school, have not even been created yet. We know that the majority of those jobs require those students to use technology. We know that the majority of those jobs are service-oriented jobs and problem-solving jobs that will benefit other people if our students know how to problem solve, communicate, and use technology in their jobs and their daily lives. Those are the things that I think about as a superintendent, and when I think about our journey to becoming future ready as a school district. Graham has a long road to hoe, but we have made a lot of progress in a short amount of time, and we're very excited about the direction we're heading. Last night was just one example as our principals led that district tweet chat. A few weeks ago, I saw some second graders working on coding during a Genius Hour, and it blew my mind. We have students who are in 5th grade who are producing their own books. These are the people that I'm thinking about and that I want my staff to be thinking about and inspired by every day. They are our heroes, and they deserve to become future ready. At Graham, our vision is success today, prepared for tomorrow. You might wonder, well, what does that really mean? What it really means is we want to have success today in everything that we do, but ultimately we want our students to be prepared for tomorrow, to be future ready. And every one of my teammates who you can see pictured here, we want to work hard to make sure that that happens. The leadership team that I have hired and put in place, I'm very privileged to work with. The teachers who are here in this district, many of whom have been here for years, are such hardworking people. And so I'm so proud as the Graham Superintendent to be able to share a little bit of our journey with you today. I hope that I shared a few specific examples that you could learn from and a few resources for you to think about. And I'd be glad to answer any questions or talk to anybody about next steps and how you go about changing a district from what I would call traditional to progressive. Thank you for listening to me today and giving me this opportunity to share a little bit about the Graham Local Schools with you.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Kirk, for a great presentation. I really enjoyed it. We do have a few questions from our audience, and I'll start with one from Vic. What LMS do you use? Do all use it?
That's a great question. Currently, we do not use an LMS, and we do not promote an LMS to our faculty or staff, and that's because we don't believe we're ready to choose an LMS just yet. Will we choose one? For sure. We will actually choose an LMS this year, and my coordinators and leaders are working through the process of evaluating several learning management systems now. We want to make sure that we choose the right LMS for the long run so that when we do put devices in children's hands and move to a one-to-one platform, that we have a long-term commitment from staff with an LMS that they're comfortable with. I can tell you for certain that we are studying what the colleges and universities are using, and we're also studying what makes the most sense for a K-12 setting for all staff. So currently, whether it's Progress Book or Canvas or Schoology, we're looking at all of them to make sure that we make the right selection and that our staff are involved in giving us some input.
Excellent. So we have another question from Colleen. What 4 data points are monitored? Perhaps you can elaborate on those 4 data points.
Yeah, the 4 data points that we're monitoring are broad, but all hit at a key aspect of our district's management. First is our kindergarten readiness assessment. We believe that early literacy is the key to success, not just for an elementary school or a kindergarten classroom, but for an entire community. We started a literacy foundation a year ago called Read, Imagine, Soar, and we're using the Dolly Parton Imagination Library vehicle to make sure that we're getting books into the hands of children and parents pre-K through 5 years old before they enter kindergarten so that we can increase their literacy capacity. Our kindergarten readiness data showed me when I got here that one of the problems we had to become future ready was that we did not have enough literate students. Currently, about 46% of our students are what we would call kindergarten ready based on the assessments that we're giving. We set out about last year to come up with a new plan, and our Director of Student Services, Emily Smith, worked on that plan with several of our teachers, and we created a measurable plan with goals. Our goal is to increase our kindergarten readiness percentage from 46% to 75% over the next 4 years, and I believe that's a very ambitious plan with the things we're working on. But that's one of the major data points. The second is our 3rd grade reading guarantee, or 3rd grade assessment, which the state of Ohio asks us to give every year. The number of students who are ready to move on to 4th grade is an important indicator for us to pay attention to. It lets us know if the literacy collaborative programming that we're working on implementing in our elementary schools is working, if our math platforms are working, but that 3rd grade reading guarantee is our second most important data point. The third data point that we're looking at is preparedness. Preparedness is a new piece of the Ohio report card that shows you how many students are career or college ready based on the number of points they have to learn or earn to graduate. So whether a student is involved in ROTC, or they're taking college courses for credit in high school, or they're getting prepared with an ACT test, those things are being measured. And so we look at the preparedness data as one of our key points. And then, of course, the fourth point is our graduation rate. The graduation rate is a percentage that allows us to know, how many of our students are attending and matriculating through school on time. Very simple, but those are 4 powerful data points that we use as a team and monitor regularly.
Thank you, Graham. I'm sorry, I keep calling you Graham. Kirk. Sorry about that. We have another question from Vic. What's the KFI platform curriculum that you mentioned?
So at the K-5 level for math, we are using Dreambox. Dreambox is a tool that was selected by our team. Our math teachers got together for approximately 4 months. They studied a number of platforms and tools with their principals. They went through an evaluation rubric on these new tools, and they ultimately had some presentations done from the vendors. They talked about it, they studied them, they shared some of these things with children, and then they made a decision. And my charge to the group was that we had to make a 3-year commitment to whichever platform we chose to truly implement it the right way and make sure that the adults learn to use it properly in the classroom setting. And our elementary teachers are very excited to be introducing Dreambox for math. For literacy, we were already a part of what's called Literacy Collaborative, using leveled literacy and reading recovery through a program that we've worked on for years with partners at Ohio State University that is also nationally well known. And we are in year 4 of implementing Literacy Collaborative, and we are seeing wonderful gains and growth with that program across the region. We actually just received news that of the 38 schools in the entire region, our students grew the most in the last year because of our Literacy Collaborative programming in terms of literacy growth, and we're thrilled about that.
Fantastic. We have a question from Anne. How do you think robotics and cyber robotics for education can help students be more future ready?
Well, that's a wonderful question, and I probably didn't spend enough time today talking about our first LEGO League teams and our robotics classes. We had already had Project Lead the Way biotech at our high school, so adding the middle school components and courses seemed to make a lot of sense. And having students work with either the VEX robotics platform and or the Lego and companies like CoderZ to get information and challenges, those are things that we had to introduce here to staff. And as our staff are becoming more comfortable and more confident with those things, the numbers of design challenges and maker challenges and robotics time that we're spending in the district is increasing dramatically. Recently, our LEGO teams were launched at the elementary and middle school, and they're already getting groups of those members, 20 in each building, ready for competitions and playing with robots. And all of that knowledge and learning that is taking place both during and after the school day is just going to strengthen our students' achievement, because they're working on very high level depth of knowledge, problem solving types of skills, and strengthening their achievement levels over time by doing that. And we're trying to make sure that that happens across all curriculum, not just in those Project Lead the Way classrooms, not just with the club time. We really want our teachers working on problem-based learning and challenges K through 12 in all classrooms.
Excellent. So I'm going to wrap up with this last question here. And this is from Alexander. You mentioned some free resources. Sometimes it's too expensive to acquire hardware for classes. Are there any affordable tools you recommend to help students be better prepared?
In terms of affordable tools, you know, that's something I talk about all the time with small and rural districts in my role with OSRC. But here as a small school superintendent working on a very lean budget, you know, we are constantly searching for free and reduced cost resources. One of the things we've been trying to get our leaders and our faculty members to do is study open resources that are available out there. There are companies, for example, like APAS, that help you to study about open resources that are available in a number of curriculum areas. Coder-Z offers free trials of the things that the products and services that are available for teachers and students to learn from. As I mentioned, grant-funded programs are something that every school superintendent has to spend time learning about, whether you're on the grants.gov website looking at federal grants that are available, or even here in the state of Ohio. What we've done at Graham is we've tried to build our community partners and our network of partners intentionally, and those things lead to opportunities. I cannot stress enough that working with the State Department of Education in Ohio, we call ODE, those partners at ODE have been very good to Graham in the last year to provide us with some opportunities to study innovation. And those meetings lead to meetings with other partners. And those partners lead to opportunities. We would not have been able to bring Learning Blade to Graham for free, a program that could cost a district thousands of dollars every year, without a partnership. So making sure that you build strong partnerships will lead to opportunities, and then exploiting those partnerships when you can for open resources or free resources, grant-funded resources, that's something we spend a lot of time on.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for speaking with us today. I enjoyed the presentation, definitely, and the discussion, and I am certain our audience did also. We will be announcing our next STEM webinar soon, so stay tuned for your invitation. You can also visit our website, gocoderz.com, for more free recorded professional development webinars. To continue the conversation, I recommend joining the Robotics and STEM for All Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/STEM4all, 4. Before we go, sorry, Graham, did you want to...
I just wanted to say thank you one more time, and I wanted to let you know that tonight we will be having a tweet chat across Ohio called OED Chat. The hashtag is #OED Chat, and we'll be talking about Future Ready with some of our principals. I'm very proud that they're going to be leading that tonight. I think we have a very robust tweet chat community in Ohio, and I would ask everybody to take some time to pay attention to that. And I just want to thank you again for having me today on behalf of Graham.
Perfect. Definitely get on that Twitter. We also have our Twitter discussion actually going on right now on the hashtag STEMNR also, so check that out also. And then just before we go, I wanted to tell you about a special back-to-school promotion we are having. We are offering a heavily discounted classroom bundle, including the Coding Robots curriculum, and 24 annual subscriptions to Coder-Z for just $600. To take advantage of this special promotion, reach out to us for a quote. For those of you not familiar with Coder-Z, check out the free trial. On behalf of Intellitech and the Coder-Z team, I want to thank you all for joining us today and for your great participation. If you have any questions, please be in touch with us, and we will be more than happy to connect you to Kirk. Have a great day.
Thank you.